I did want to do a brief reading that I think is actually very much in keeping with what we were just talking about, although it may not seem so immediately. This is a book called The World Beyond Your Head on Becoming an Individual in an Age of Distraction. It is an excellent book. It is Matthew Crawford's. It's from 2015, and his first book was called Shop Class as Soulcraft, which I think I've mentioned on our live streams before. I'm a huge fan of this guy. He I didn't look up his bio again before coming on air, so I may get something wrong here. If I remember correctly, he got his PhD in economics from the Chicago School, from University of Chicago, and took a job basically as a policy wonk within the Beltway in D.C. and wrote these important white papers. And after a couple of years, realized that he was sort of losing his will to live. That he felt like two people, maybe at the most 20, are ever going to read any of these things. I don't think I'm actually having an impact on the world. Clearly a brilliant guy, totally capable of being this kind of analyst. But he left and he opened up a, I think mostly vintage, although I may have that wrong, motorcycle repair shop in Virginia. And hence his first book, Shopcraft as Soulcraft, which is kind of a latter-day Zen in the art of motorcycle maintenance, both of which I think are extraordinary books. This, The World Beyond Your Head on Becoming an Individual in an Age of Distraction, I just want to read a couple of excerpts from this today. First, from a section he calls The Attentional Commons. We have all had the experience of sitting in an airport with an hour to kill and being unable to escape the chattering of CNN. The audio may be turned off, but if the TV is within view, I, for one, find it impossible not to look at it. The introduction of novelty into one's field of view commands what the cognitive psychologists call an orienting response, an important evolutionary adaptation in a world of predators. An animal turns its face and eyes towards the new thing. A new thing typically appears every second on television. The images on the screen jump out of the flow of experience and make a demand on us. In their presence, it is difficult to rehearse a remembered conversation, for example. Whatever trains of thought might otherwise be pursued by those in the room give way to a highly coordinated experience, not the near simultaneous turning of a troop of macaques to face the python that has appeared, but the involuntary glances of weary travelers towards the content on offer. Alternatively, people in such places stare at their phones or open a novel, sometimes precisely in order to tune out the piped-in chatter. A multiverse of private experiences is accessible after all. In this battle of attentional technologies, what is lost is the kind of public space that is required for a certain kind of sociability. Jonathan Franzen wrote, "Walking up 3rd Avenue on a Saturday night, I felt bereft. All around me, attractive young people are hunched over their StarTACs and Nokias with preoccupied expressions as if probing a sore tooth. All I really want from a sidewalk is that people see me and let themselves be seen." A public space where people are not self-enclosed in the heightened way that happens when our minds are elsewhere than our bodies may feel rich with possibility for spontaneous encounters. Even if we do not converse with others, our mutual reticence is experienced as reticence, if our attention is not otherwise bound up, but is rather free to alight upon one another and linger or not, because we ourselves are free to pay out our attention in deliberate measures. To be the object of someone's reticence is quite different from not being seen by them. We may have a vivid experience of having encountered another person, even if in silence. Such encounters are always ambiguous, and their need for interpretation gives rise to a train of imaginings, often erotic. This is what makes cities exciting. So, just remarkable to my mind, especially in the era of COVID when we have so many fewer of these spaces right now. But the fact is that even before COVID, even before the lockdowns, what he was writing about in 2015 is even more true at the end of 2019, early 2020, before COVID, that it is very hard to find a public space anymore. Even when you think you're in public, you're alone together, as opposed to maybe engaging even with strangers, with glances, with the understanding that we are actually sharing our minds and brains and bodies all in one space. One more brief excerpt from the end of the book. What this boils down to: please don't install speakers in every single corner of a shopping mall, even its outdoor spaces. Please don't fill up every moment between innings in a lazy college baseball game with thundering excitement. Please give me a way to turn off the monitor in the backseat of a taxi. Please let there be one corner of the bar where the flickering delivery system for Bud Light commercials is deemed unnecessary, because I am already at the bar. The attentional commons is an idea that I hope will catch on among those who are in a position to make such sanctuaries happen: building managers, commercial real estate developers, and interior designers. Here is a modest proposal. Could the Muzak be made opt-in rather than opt-out? Once every 20 minutes, somebody in the room would have to deliberately hit a button to restart it and thereby actively affirm, yes, we want some emo in here. We learned encouraging things too. Joy is the feeling of one's powers increasing, the experience of hitting one's flow as a cook, or feeling one's awareness run out through the contact patches of a motorcycle's tires seems to reveal something deep about the situated, embodied character of impressive human performance. This is slightly weird to be doing here because we are explicitly disembodied from those watching and from those who will only be listening. But we're here embodied with one another, and every day that we are smart enough to make it happen during this season, we are going outside, taking walks or bike rides or getting our kayaks into the water and just being there in our bodies, with our brains, with each other and our children. And it is fundamentally different. And being out there, when you guys were pulling the boats out of the water a few nights ago, and I was just sitting watching first the geese, but then the other people on the dock, we were too far away to see them directly. It was too dark to make eye contact, but they were there and we were there and we were all there together in a way that doesn't tend to happen anymore.
Yeah, I agree. And there was an awful lot of what I would say is superficial camaraderie that used to be exchanged. Just the simple fact that you were involved in the same activity as somebody, you would say something about how nice an evening it was for it or whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has been lost. And I must say, when it does happen, it feels really, really good.
It feels
such a relief.
It feels human, right?
Yeah.
It feels like a reminder of what we are, that we are social beings, that we are not just our brains. We are not brains in jars. We are not just our bodies. So when we go out and actually engage in sport or physical activity, it's not, and now we put our analytical selves on hold or our creative selves. No. Like this is often the place where the best ideas come from, right? When you are not actively working on an intellectual puzzle or how to word the thing, it is this place where you can be in the moment fully.
Well, and it's a very good demonstration of exactly the thing that is lost in this de-individuated communal view, which is not to say that there's not a lot about what works that needs to be communal, but the point is it's semi-communal. The thing that's great about communal is the asymmetry of it, that different people with different perspectives find themselves in the same space. And, if you erase that by either forcing everybody to be alike or policing what they say so that the differences can't be seen, you just destroy such a large fraction of what's important about the humanness of it.
That's right.
But anyway, I would also say, just on a bright note, it is totally true that many of these technologies just obliterate some important social interaction that once existed, but then others are arbitrarily created. So this podcast is obviously you all choosing to tune in a conversation between us that isn't exactly a conversation between us, because we're aware that there's an audience and this is specifically something we do here so that you can tune it in, but we're also not,
it's not a total fabrication.
No, it's a synthesis.
Obviously we have conversations like this elsewhere and have been for decades, else we wouldn't have been able to show up on camera and start talking.
Right. So the conversation is real. There's nothing inauthentic about it. You all know what you've signed up for. We know why we're sitting here. But the point is, it is a choice, and it is a semi-social choice, because although we're not interacting with everybody who's paying attention, we get a lot of information back about what people are thinking, and we get lots of interesting communications that point our attention to things. So anyway, this is some new form, right?
It is.
And it's it's hopeful that even as certain things are being destroyed, other things are wrestling their way into existence that in some ways compensate for what's been lost.